G'day guys and welcome to Wordplay, where we play a game and have a chat about stuff we find interesting. I'm Dirt,
And I'm Scott from youtube.com/debriefyt, links down below.
and let's play some games. Today we're here to talk about MMOs. Basically, what is an MMO, what MMOs can be, and all that kind of good stuff that comes along with it. So let's kick it off and get into it.
And the loneliness.
Loneliness. Alright, Scotty. So most people who listen to my channel know that we play a lot of multiplayer games. We play
Yes,
Armor, we play pretty much everything under the sun because we find it fun.
Yeah, because everybody in our community has 300 games on Steam.
It's because Steam is so ridiculously cheap. You can get any kind of multiplayer game for fucking pittance. But where do we draw the line between multiplayer and massively multiplayer games?
You want me to go first?
Sure. Tell me your points of view, Scotty.
Right. So you look at your traditional multiplayer games, it's normally got, well, these days, it's normally got a tacked on single player element. You look at a lot of first person shooters, you've got your Call of Duties, your Battlefields, and then you've got, you move into the more pure multiplayer and competitive side of things, like Counter-Strike Global Offensive and the whole esports thing that we talked about last week. And
arguably, the multiplayer aspect of those single player games is actually taking over now. Like, who actually plays Call of Duty for the storyline and never moves into the multiplayer side?
Exactly, and that's an issue. But I think that's another story for another time. But I think it's an issue that if you tack on the single player, that's wasted development time, and you can hurt the multiplayer elements. But that's
exactly
something that we could figure out and talk about later on. But when you look at you move on to the next sort of side of multiplayer games, you move into that sort of pseudo MMO. What I mean by that is there's MMO elements, but it's not necessarily full on dedicated servers and everybody being in one server. You look at things like Destiny. It did sell well, and it got mixed sort of reviews, and
very mixed reviews.
People realized that it had a little bit lacking of content. And you also look at recently came out Elite Dangerous, absolutely fantastic game, and it's based a lot around instancing rather than pure everybody in the same server at the same time, in which you come out of Super Cruise jumps and you're in your own instance, and you can share that with other people depending on what game mode you're playing on, and so forth. And then after
we've had
that,
pretty good success playing that game together. Like,
yeah,
even
it's pretty good.
Open world mode, we tend to get together. So there's obviously some algorithms running there that's pretty good.
Well, when they update that in January and bring the Wings update out, that's going to be even more prevalent. Just on the basis that that's the next thing that we're working on, kind of their version of guilds. So after that pseudo MMO style, there's that blurred line there between what is it an MMO or is it not. So then you move into the pure MMOs. You look at WoW as the big fella, of course you do, and then there's PlanetSide 2 in its own way. It's huge, man. And then you've got
PlanetSide 2 has, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it has millions of subscribers.
Really?
Indeed.
See, the thing is, you've got to talk about active players, you know.
They spit out all these numbers when it comes to World of Warcraft, where you've got 9 million active subscribers still, and those are active people paying every month for the game. Yeah. They may not be playing anywhere near as much as they used to because the game's been out for what 10, 11 years now, and it's dropped in the last. I think last year it dropped like 3 million subscribers, but it can still have. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Warlords of Draenor came out. It went back over 10 million again.
Yeah, exactly. So like, they bring out the smallest little expansion pack.
Because apparently it's a freaking awesome expansion. People have been saying some good things about it. Yeah, I can't get good enough player numbers from a reputable source, unfortunately. But
PlanetSide, I've never had a match where I haven't seen anyone. Like, the servers are always full. People are always boshing each other.
Did you play with a group?
I did. I played with our old clan that we used to have, and we had a good 8 of us playing it at a time. Like, we'd all jump on, get together on TeamSpeak, say, hey, does anyone want to play PlanetSide? And we'd jump on there and we would just kick ass. Like, there'd be the main combat zones that were happening, and you'd see these combat zones. They pop up on the map, and you got this fancy instant action button where you can just jump into that place, and it was really good. But you could also just completely ignore a lot of that stuff and go do your guerrilla ops, around the side, and cut off resupply points and stuff, and that's what we did a lot.
The group play was the best thing. I played with I don't know if you read their site. I don't anymore because they kind of lost my trust and respect over a different controversy that we probably won't talk about because it's out of date. The whole Gamergate bollocks. Rock Paper Shotgun, the video game website. They had oh god, what was the group system called for PlanetSide 2?
It wasn't Corporation, was it?
No, that's Eve. Well, whatever. The guild type outfits. That's the one. The outfit system. I was with some of the Rock Paper Shotgun community guys, and that was always quite fun. But I had some intense battles there. Still not as intense as Armor, but again, that's probably another topic for another time when we can plug our community a bit more.
Exactly.
So that's what I think you get into that next level of the whole MMO argument as to where there's a lot of players around a lot of the time, or you get a lot of player hubs where loads of the players like hang around. It's Jita is normally a place where a lot of people hang around in EVE Online, and where's the place where everybody bloody hangs out in WoW? Jesus.
The main city, fucking Ogromir.
That's the one. Ogromir,
fucking hell, I remember that after fucking 5 years of not playing.
Good job, man. Good job.
Epic. Well, so basically that's the classification of it, where there's a lot of people at the same time, because we've got games like Armor where you can have 64 players on a server at one time. We've got games like Elite.
You were close. It's Ogromar, not Ogromir. Sorry.
Oh, fucking sure, fine, thanks.
Sorry, love you.
Yeah, you've got games like Elite where the most amount of players I've seen was on launch. It was probably about 10, 15 actual players in the same system as me at the same time.
Yeah.
Whether that's like something that they did to keep the release stable, which we can get into later, but that was the most stable release of any fucking.
Oh, we're talking about Elite right now?
Experienced. What's that?
Are we talking about Elite Dangerous right now?
Yeah, Elite.
What did I say? Like a few days before release, I was like, these servers are gonna just crap themselves and just fall over, and it was absolutely fine. The only time the servers went down was for maintenance.
Exactly.
Absolutely incredible work by Frontier.
There was no lag, stuttering, or anything. We were straight out there taking out enemies, like scoping around, having a look.
It's not an empty game either, though. If you go to a station in the news bulletin, there's a traffic report every now and then. And systems have had tens of thousands of players go through them in the past 24 hours. And then the further out you get, or further into the middle of the galaxy, I've been in systems where the stations have only had, 50, 60 players going through them. And that's where I normally find the bigger trade routes. But that game's launch was awesome.
I think it's because there is so much space in between. You just don't tend to see those players. And there's over 1 billion fucking star systems. So
400 billion.
400 billion star systems.
Come on, that's so
excessive.
Cool.
Like, no one's ever going to see each other. So then that basically brings it down from a MMO to a fucking, hey, let's find each other game.
Yeah. Which it makes those. It's good for explorers, right? Because that's where they make all their money. They go to the places where nobody's ever been before, and then they get money that way.
You take a big long trip, you're going to get a couple of million out of it.
Yeah, and then if you're a bounty hunter, you know that you need to be sticking around the bigger mine. You find out where the big mining systems are, because traditionally there's a lot of pirates in there, so you're going to see a lot of bounties. Obviously, if you're a miner, you go out with probably an explorer, find out the best places you can mine. Trade routes, you're bouncing around. I'm a trader, so I bounce around all over the place trying to find the most profitable route. And if you're a pirate, again, you look at the most profitable routes, or you find the best mining routes. That game is another one of those player ran games in the same sense that Eve was, or still is, obviously, but the difference is it's not as in depth. It's close
that we know of yet. There may be some things that we just haven't discovered yet.
Exactly.
Like,
but
can we really impact the station's economy on a large scale?
Well, you'll never know, because that's something that, we will know eventually, but that's something you've got to chip away at.
Yeah, exactly.
If you look at EVE Online and compare it to Elite Dangerous, EVE Online has had, God, when did EVE come out? It's got to be 10 plus years now of
somewhat around
building content. I'm seeing 2003, yeah, so around 11 years of player influence. And then you look at how in depth all of the systems are, all of the mechanics are, how much it's grown with like the amount of graphs and charts, and different ships you can build and how you can get them, and the fact that you can pay for the game with in-game currency and buying pilots licenses. That game, it's obviously had an influence on Elite. It obviously has.
Definitely.
But obviously, then Eve has probably took some influence from the original Elite, right? It's that cycle.
Oh, definitely. And there's a lot of other single-player games that, like all space games, have something in common. They're in space. They're huge, vast expanses of nothingness. So they have to have these economies that drive the game to actually be able to send stuff in between. Otherwise, it's just you're in space and you can shoot a few things and you get bored of that in bloody a couple of months.
Have you heard of Limit Theory?
I have not heard of
Limit Theory is a single-player space game. And it's not out yet. It's in development, and it's being made basically by one dude. And it looks really, really cool, but it's single player, so you're going to see your influence a lot more over somebody else's.
I think we've chuffed on enough about the multiplayer versus massively multiplayer for a while. Pricing structure. So the three main pricing structure for MMOs are subscription, free-to-play, and pay-to-play.
Pay-to-play as in you pay once and then you've got it.
Exactly. Cool. It's basically the old school way of you buy a game and that's your game. Basically, the servers are hosted by the company from the millions of dollars that they've gotten from selling the game.
Traditionally, they've got an in-game store as well, but that's normally just cosmetic stuff.
Exactly.
Which is fine. It's a good way to fund.
Yes. Well, how long do you think, Scotty, that the actual subscription model can last? We see at the moment, aside from the new release of World of Warcraft, increase in numbers again, over the last few years, there has been I wouldn't say rapid, but there has been a steady decline in subscription holders.
Yeah, until Warlords of Draenor came out.
Exactly. But it flows over into other games as well, because you see a lot of different games closing down because they just can't maintain their servers because they're not getting enough players, because not enough people are putting in subscriptions.
It gets to the point where you've got to go free to play to even fund the game, because more people are willing to buy the in-game content than they are to subscribe. Basically, I think the answer to your question is, as to how long a subscription model can last, is if you're Blizzard, probably forever. I think it's going to change in the next 3-4 years. It's not.
They have been saying that for the last 3 or 4 years as well.
Yeah, I know, but then Warlords of Draenor came out. Then Warlords of Draenor came out and blew everybody's feckin' socks off. Like, Pandaria wasn't that well acclaimed. It was okay, and then this thing came out and everybody loves it, apart from the old hardcore guys, because it's changed it into something a bit more casual. Again, that's just another topic for another time as to why I went off WoW.
We won't talk specifically at the moment. But you look at games like BioWare's Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yes. That was a single-player game.
It was basically a single-player game set in a multiplayer universe.
Yeah.
But it came out as a subscription mod for an MMO. The game itself can be completed entirely in single-player. It takes about 60 hours, so you get a good chunk of game.
It's a good story, man.
It's
a really good story.
The story is fucking phenomenal, along with every BioWare game. The
giant
characters
Star
are really
Wars nerd, you are. So
exactly,
it kind of helps.
I'm trying not to geek out too much on it, but
I know,
it was everything I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Until the game finished, because that game has an end, and once you get to the end, i.e.
no
level
end game.
cap, there was at release anyway. There was no end game.
Was there 2 raids? I can't remember how many raids there were. I don't think there was many. There's an expansion.
I didn't see any. There's expansions now, and the game has apparently gotten a lot more end game content. If you don't like PvP, a lot of these games just end when you hit to max level. We're going to reference World of Warcraft a hell of a lot because, let's face it,
it's the staple, isn't it? It's the
staple,
fella.
and it's done so well. It is a fucking good game. It is also a life ruiner, but...
It is, absolutely.
People have died playing it. But we look at that, there is a lot of endgame content because Blizzard has backed up their commitment to making in the beginning it was a 5-year commitment to making an MMO. Now they're looking at pushing it out to another 20 years. Well, to a 20-year game.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get an updated engine. Well, they slowly update it, but I think it's almost time for a World of Warcraft 2. Or
you think?
Almost.
I think
they're
it would
about
flop.
another 5 years off before they have to.
I think it would flop, personally.
You
I
think
think
it'll
people,
flop?
yeah, if it's a hotkey MMO, it will. Nobody wants hotkey MMOs anymore. The
No, I
reason
think
people
that's
still,
yeah, that's well, clearly they do because they're playing World of
yeah, but
Warcraft.
the
They're
reason people
playing
play
games
WoW is
like
because they've had 10 years worth of experience in it, and they don't just want to throw that away.
yeah, but like I moved to other games and I don't particularly play that many MMOs anymore. I'm playing Arcade now, and
Hmm.
that's working out really well. But it's still the same style of play as WoW.
Yeah.
Like you're still playing hotkey MMO. You're not playing as many hotkeys anymore because they've worked out that having 4 rows of hotkeys that you're gonna have to press just to do one ultimate combo.
Yeah, the combo system in Arcade is nice.
Yes,
It's a
I
nice
like it.
smooth flow. So a lot of skills work together really well, and you've got 3 different trees, and you can choose between a couple of options to give yourself your own unique flavor. But you look at things like Guild Wars 2, those more action based MMOs. I did really enjoy Guild Wars 2, and then the new update ruined it.
Oh right,
Um,
so moving on. So subscription model, it has a place.
Mhm.
Obviously, Eve is a very, very prime example of
Yeah.
if you have a small game with a core playership, the subscription model can definitely work. If you
Yes.
are a massive game offering a massive amount of content that no human being could ever possibly get through unless they have absolutely 0.0% of a life,
Hmm.
like if you're playing WoW, then it works because you've just got that promise of content.
You just pissed off so many people.
I did.
You got no life, man. Even
That's
though
what I'm
we're
here to
about to
do.
have a subject that we're going to talk about where, like, I'm going to refute the fact that there's that negative stigma.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's
then we move on to the more casual side of MMOs, the
oh god,
ability
don't
to.
say casual. Oh god,
Uh,
you're
I,
angering
I
everybody.
I don't mean casual as in the playstyle. I mean casual as in the commitment to it.
Yes.
You've got your free to plays. There
Hmm.
are countless free to plays. There are good ones, there are bad
Yeah.
ones, but there is just an insane amount of free to plays, and you can take your pick. They're all relatively the same.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of them are a clone of the style of play of WoW. The insane variety of free to play games out there is amazing.
It is, but a lot of them started off as a subscription-based MMO, realized that that wasn't the model that was working, so they had to switch.
Exactly. And that's where we can lead back to Star Wars
Yeah,
because.
that went free to play in record time because it had
Exactly.
no content. The amount of money that they poured into that game
Yep.
on voice actors and story and writing and character design, and didn't put that much money into the actual end game, and then they expected everybody to pay a long enough subscription to fund the development. Like it was really weird how they kind of went about it, and the fact that they went, it was a little bit sad actually that they had to go free to play it in record
It
time
was,
because the
but
single
it's
player
also a
was
good
so
thing
good.
because now more people get to enjoy that game.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about free to play. It can, one, rescue a game that is an awesome game and
Hmm.
should be played by a lot of people, but initially was maybe too expensive for those people to play. It can revitalize that thing so more people can play it now.
Yeah.
When I first started, there was a lot of people playing it, but after you get to the month mark, the 2 months mark, the 3 month when I stopped playing it because there was nothing to do, people were going off. And then 6 months down the track, when they realize, oh shit, we're in trouble, we need to go get more people. How do we do that? You go free to play.
Yeah.
The best thing to do, in my opinion, which I'm a bit torn on the difference between free to play and pay to play. I like the pay to play aspect, but I also like the
Yes.
free to play aspect because when you pay to play, you tend to get just that little bit more of a personal game in my experience,
Uh-huh.
versus a free to play where you've got millions of people playing a game for a couple of months. And that's what you can do on free to play games. You can travel between these free to play games. You can play it for a couple of months, get bored of it, switch on, move, and you've got no financial downfall from.
Yeah. There's no investment there.
Exactly.
But it depends on the model. You know,
Yeah.
some models don't do it as well as others. So some models actually inherently give the people that choose to subscribe as a really big benefits. You know, again, Star Wars: The Old Republic, I think there's huge benefits to subscribing against not subscribing, and I think
Yeah.
it should cosmetics. The pro players, the big players that have a lot of time invested in the game are the guys that are going to be buying from your store no matter what you put on because they want to support you and they want to buy the latest stuff. It's definitely healthy for the industry to make sure that there's that variety there for us to, to kind of pick and choose what you want to do with your payment. You get to control your own money. Guild Wars 2, you pay it once and forget about it, and then you're going to grab a couple of cosmetics or whatever, or some little novelty items. And the variety out there of the different payment models we can take, it's benefits different people. All of the WoW guys are all fine with subscribing because there's 10 million of them, and they know that the time that they're investing is well worth the money because it's the only game they play, or it's the majority of the time that they spend. Exactly. Like if Counter-Strike was a subscribed game, I'd probably subscribe to it. Yeah. Like, because I spend half my time playing Counter-Strike because it's freaking great.
The last one is pay to play. This one is actually my favorite.
Yeah.
Because some of the best games that I've played and intend to play have been pay to play.
Yes.
You look at Guild Wars was a pay to play. You initially pick it up. I think it was I picked it up on sale for about €30.
Yeah, I got mine for 20 quid.
Yep. Very much one of the best MMOs that I've ever played because of the combat style. It is my favorite combat out of any MMO I've ever played because that auto attack, like that base attack that you do, actually it helps. Like it's handy. It does
has
actually
some meat
do
to it
damage.
as well. It's got its own little combo effect as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then you apply different abilities to that, and it just makes it really fun. But the point of it is, it's a pay to play. You pick it up, you play it, and you don't have to have a subscription. You can walk away for 6 months. You subscribe to the newsletter. You come back when they've got a big update, and they do it constantly. But yes, you're looking at another couple of examples. One of your favorite games, Elite. That's a pay to play. Like you pay for it once and you continue on. I guess it's gonna survive by skins, because you can't actually buy ships outside of the game.
Yeah, which is good, by the way. That's a really, really good idea. Thank you, Frontier. You're the best. You got £1.5 million of development, and you made one of the best payment models I've ever seen. Thank you.
And then the other one is arguably going to be one of the largest games, I hope, of 2016. Star Citizen.
You hope.
I'm hell-bent on this game being good. It is going to be a pay to play. Yeah, buy to play. They have a really interesting way of doing it at the moment where they're still getting crowdfunding, and they're up to $24 million as of this podcast in crowdfunding. And they've done that through the purchasing of ships. Yeah. Now, there is a lot of people saying, is this going to be a pay-to-win game? And we'll come into that later. My opinion is no. But focusing just on the...
Well, this will be interesting, because my opinion is yes.
Well, we have different opinions here.
Good. Otherwise, this podcast
they're
will
another
be
one
boring.
following the pay-to-play, and they're doing it tremendously, and it's actually really, really working for them. And props to them for actually funding their MMO. Alright, we have done the death out of fucking pricing, so let's move on to our top 5 MMOs and our impressions. So this we're going to have 2 different lists here. We're going to let Scotty go through his first.
This is going to anger people.
This is not...
Hang on, whoa. Can we go back really quick?
Yes.
Star Citizen has had $68 million.
$68 million.
Not 28.
Okay, I'll add it.
Which, by the way, holy shit. That's a lot of money.
So, to reiterate, this is our top 5 most loved games. They're not the best games in every aspect. They don't embody everything about MMOs necessarily, although my MMOs are pretty standard MMO-y. But yeah, so we're just going to talk about what we love best about these games. And Scotty, Debrief, take it away.
Right, let's go.
So what's your top 5?
Yeah, and really quick impressions, yeah?
Yeah, whatever.
Right, we'll go 5 to 1. Number 5, World of Warcraft up to Cataclysm was what I played. Obviously, it's unarguably the biggest and considered one of the best MMOs of all time. It's on the number 5 spot for me just because I couldn't really get into it after Cataclysm. Lich King was awesome. Pandaria leaves a little bit to be desired, but apparently Warlords of Draenor is pretty great. The only thing that turns me off is just the fact that I'm not really into hotkey MMOs anymore, but it's undeniable of how incredibly influential that game was, especially me when I was a bit younger. I played the shit out of that game. Definitely a lot of the mechanics were taken from old EverQuest games and some other old MMOs, and they've been improved, and they've been the best of those mechanics. So that's where my number 5 spot fits in. Yep. Up to number 4, we've got PlanetSide 2, absolutely fantastic MMO FPS. It does have a few problems, but that's what happens when you're starting to make a new genre and bring it back into modern times. Absolutely fantastic, the way that the guild system works, and the fact that there's just huge space battles, and you can be in massive tanks and spaceships and giant mech suits shooting lasers at people. Come on. Oh, come on. How can you not love that? Number 3, it's got number 3 right now, but I'd probably end up bumping it to number 2 and 1 later on in life on the basis of it just been released and it's going to get some major improvements. But right now is Elite Dangerous. It has to be. Absolutely incredible, the work that Frontier and David Braben have put in. I will not stop talking about how incredible David Braben is.
You fucking love David Braben.
Yeah,
David Braben, if you happen to listen to this, I will tag Elite Dangerous as a tag in this. If you happen to listen to this, my friend Scotty is deeply in love with you in a non-sexual way.
Oh dear me, what an absolute genius. Absolutely love this game. Just the sheer size of the universe, the things you can do, the fact that you can kind of run your own life in space. It's very much very reminiscent of slightly less in-depth EVE Online, but you can actually pilot your ships, which is awesome, especially if you've got a joystick and track IR like I have. It's so very immersive and so very cool that you can just choose what you want to do and do it. You want to go to the center of galaxy, do it. You want to trade, go nuts. And then we move up to number 2, Guild Wars 2. Even though I've assessed a lot of my problems, I have been leveling up a little bit more just to try and get back into it. And again, I have stopped since I got with 4sec because I'm so heavy on the armor train right now. But Guild Wars 2, the combat is great. The action combat system is fantastic. The crafting system's pretty good. It's okay. The guild system's okay. The raiding is really, really nice. It's such a colourful, beautiful game. It's such a good looking game. And again, the payment model. The payment model is really, really great. I got that game on half price for about £20, which it's worth so much more than £20. Worth so much more. The model in the shop is really great. It's such a good game to pick up and play if you're really starting to get into MMOs, but you don't want to commit to the subscription model. And then last, we're going to top this off, number 1, EVE Online. On the basis of the sheer size of that game and what you can do, and how CCP have pretty much left it to the players to form what's happening in the game. You can make your own wars between factions. You know, you can fight AI, you can fight other players, you can go mine, and you can do whatever in the same way that you can do in Elite Dangerous. But the thing that draws me most to EVE Online as somebody who's really into business and statistics and stuff like that is just the sheer amount of graphs and charts. Like that just makes me so happy, is just the amount of trading information and stuff you can get, which is my biggest draw in these kinds of games. I'm always a trader. It's the whole package. The combat is the only thing that leaves a little bit to be desired, unfortunately. But it's so very in-depth and so very vast, and that's what makes it the number 1 spot for me.
Well, my top 5 list, not necessarily in any order. These are just my best 5 games that I like to turn to. A lot of have shaped the way I play games, whether I'm interested in fantasy games for the most part, or a little bit more of the sci-fi. So I'll start from bottom to top, not in any specific order, is PlanetSide 2. Definitely the best online first-person shooter that I've ever played. When it comes to slightly bigger audiences.
Yeah, don't piss off the Counter-Strike crowd, bro.
Well, to me, this is better than Counter-Strike because there's so much more. Like, when I play games, I need things to do, and
it's a different game.
Exactly. And PlanetSide, you can do everything. You can fly a plane, you can drive a tank, you can shoot as an infantry, you can snipe from very long distances, which I like doing. And it just it tells stories. Like when we used to play, we played at 8-man teams. We'd have taken outposts, and there'd be a story about how there was another team fighting against us, and it was a small team, and we'd build up our own little battle against these guys, spawning, dying, taking over this place, and actually getting it. And we'd have that story. Like we could tell that for months to come, or if someone recorded it, we could watch it for months to come. And it was just something special that that game just produces stories. The next one is Arcade, relatively new to the Western market, um, but it has so much. It is a point. It is a bit of a hotbar and MMO. The combat style, I don't mind it. I quite like it. It's not as hotbar-y as a lot of other MMOs, so it is a lot more compact. Some would say casual because it is a very relatively easy game to play, but it can be masterful because you've got the whole combo system.
There we
I
go.
said half the word. It's got the whole combo system, and you can tie in a lot of different things together. And when you play in groups, you can tie combos together with other people, do massive amounts of damage, and it's really fun. But my favorite aspect of it is actually the fucking farming simulator that comes along with it. The crafting in this game is quite good, quite fun, and very extensive. And you can actually own your own bit of property, and the property is limited where you can actually do it. So not everyone can have property. It's actually one of those ones where if you have got the subscription, you can have property, but if you don't, you can't. So it's a little bit of bittersweet aspect there. So I'm not a subscriber anymore, so I've lost my property. But just the amount of stuff that you can do with the farming and building a boat was an epic thing for me, and it was so much fun. Next was Dark Age of Camelot. This is an older game, much older game. Very, very hotbar-y, but that was back in the age of when that was all there was. But the multiplayer in this game was the best multiplayer that has ever been invented and will ever be invented, and they are actually the guys who made the multiplayer for Elder Scrolls Online. But in my opinion, these guys still did it best. You had 3 different factions, and in the center was this big fort. And the map changed, but each, like, I think it was 20 levels or 10 levels, but the concept stayed the same.
Yeah.
You go in, eventually one person takes the fort, or like one faction takes the fort, and then you have to fight to get it back. It was a very easy concept. You had siege weapons and all this kind of stuff, and it was epic fun. You had to get up and you had to kill everyone and then kill the guard tower. That was really fun. But then, once you got to the highest levels, you could go out into the free roaming world, which there was towers spotted all over this huge map that it took bloody an hour to run across. People were always roaming out there in bands. There's a very similar thing in Guild Wars 2, which I never actually got to the multiplayer PvP in Guild Wars 2, but I have heard that there is a very similar kind of PvP in there, but it seems broken as of last time I heard. That just if you're in a big band, you win. If you're in if you're by yourself, there's no way you can do anything because you'll just get steamrolled.
Mm-hmm.
It was slightly like that in this game, but it was a lot more managed. Like one person could just go out and do some damage against other people, and you could hide, you could sneak. It was a lot more difficult to see people. So it was really fun. Okay, next for me was Guild Wars 2. By far and away the best combat in any MMO. The click to hit model, the fact that you could move around and just tap your left mouse button and actually do damage, and you had to dodge, and then you had your skills. And I played as a dual wield rogue, so I'd sneak up behind things, hit them, run away, use my bow a little bit.
Necromancy was really cool.
Yeah, there's so many different things you can do, and you could blend different things together in Guild Wars 2, if I'm correct. Or is that
How do
Guild
you
Wars
mean?
1? No, that was Guild Wars 1, sorry. You could have 2 different classes.
Yeah.
Either way, the combat in that was absolutely amazing. That's why I love Guild Wars 2. The lush environments, the ridiculously happy colors for most of it. The If I can recall, there wasn't that much of a diversity with the enemies, but when you're creating 4 billion enemies in a game, you're gonna get a lot of tie over. So yeah, best combat. Loved Guild Wars 2. Very, very fun. And this one is my top MMO. The others, they're in no specific order, but this one is by far and away my favorite MMO ever to exist, and it's Ultima Online.
Yeah.
And it is actually the very first MMO that has ever existed, arguably. Well, it is. This, for me, the best part about this was, it was my first baby. I played it for I played it for a very long time. It's a isometric fantasy MMO that just it did everything right. Multiplayer, not multiplayer, PvP. If you were out of a town and you wanted to do something, say you're a bandit, if you wanted to roleplay as bandit, you see someone outside of town, you attack them, bam. Like if you can win, they're dead. They can put a bounty on your head, but they had to put that bounty with other players.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd put up on a notice board saying, I want this guy dead. He killed me. I'll offer anyone who can bring me like a token of his.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of trust and belief thing there, but it happened. I actually went for a stint as a bounty hunter. It was quite good. I tracked down
You like that a
people.
lot, don't you? You do that in Elite as well.
Yeah, well, I'm a noble guy. I like to.
Oh, stop it. Your moral compass points south.
So as long as I get something out of it, I might be a mercenary. But the best thing for that game, for me, was the skill system. You had basically 700 points that you could allocate through, it was about 30 different skills off the top of my head. So you could build your character however you wanted, you had to actually do these things. Like, if you wanted to be a swords master, you had to just use swords until you grinded up. And it was a grindy game, but back then, all games were grindy. That was the kind of MMOs that were out. But it was fun. And I played with friends, and it was fun because we role-played a lot. We had our own names, we called each other by our character names, even though we knew each other in real life.
Roleplay is cool, man. Roleplay is cool.
Exactly.
And when we inevitably have a wordplay about Armor Milsim, we'll talk more about roleplay. Can I be in that one as well, please?
So yeah, that's my top 5. They all have their different special little places in my heart, but Ultima Online is by far and away my favorite. I can't play it these days because I am a graphics Nazi. But I do occasionally go back to the Ultima series. That's my top 5 MMOs.
And we have just angered so many people.
Fuck, I don't give a shit. Alright, so next topic we've got is the stigma surrounding MMOs. This one should be a little bit shorter, but...
Yes, quite.
Is, Scotty, everyone who plays an MMO really a fat 26-year-old guy drinking coke in his mother's basement, or some angry 13-year-old kid who just wants to spout bullshit in response to comments on, like, in chat? Or is an MMO player just an everyday guy?
We're all normal people.
Exactly.
All of us.
MMO players come from every walk of life. Like, I used to play with my housemate in WoW, and his dad and sister both played it. And his dad was like in his 40s, and he wasn't a particularly big gamer, but he wanted to spend time with his son, so he got interested in what his son did. Yeah. And he ended up playing more than both of us.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's actually pretty good too.
We're all, if you just roll through the list, me, I'm going to university, you've got a job, a wife, and we've got lads that have got girlfriends in Forsec. You know, we are the complete opposite, like, of everything
of those two stereotypes that everyone in the world who doesn't understand games and doesn't play games thinks that we're either that 26-year-old or that fucking 13-year-old.
Exactly. None of us are 13 and none of us are 26 in Forsec, so we can just refute that right away straight off the bat.
I think we do actually have a 26-year-old.
Oh God, if we do well, that's my point down the drain, isn't it? Nobody will ever know. It's you find a community and friends, and you lot enforce. Oh God, it's gonna be. It's gonna get sobby, right? You're all my best mates, all of you
Yes.
are. I've met one of you
Yeah.
on the basis that he lives in the same city as me.
So we're breaking that antisocial thing now as well. We're
Exactly.
not antisocial gamers that just sit in the basement because we've actually gone out and met people. I know other friends who have met from playing World of Warcraft. I know people who have gotten married from playing World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
that breaks that stigma as well. We're not all just antisocial freaks.
yeah. Can we link these topics up? The stigma and the communities based within an MMO? Because some of those reasons cross over.
Yeah, sure.
Uh,
These last, these last 4 and 6 can be together pretty easily.
right. The thing is, you find friends in a community and you have fun that way. It's just like going out, except you don't go out. And then you look at things like if you're like a raid leader or a guild leader, some people have put it on CVs and resumes, like
You
on the
definitely
basis
put
that
on a CV and a
you
resume
know
these
how
days.
difficult it is to lead
I
a
do.
group
I
of
do.
like yeah, you do. To lead a group of like 60 people, like it's incredible how much like kind of like as a business student, like I admire people that can manage that many people over the internet without actually physically being there. Like it's so cool, and it enhances your. It really does actually enhance your life skills.
Oh,
Like
very
even
much so.
again I'm gonna link this together because it makes a lot of sense. Even with this armor stuff, it brings stuff into your actual life. It brings discipline. It brings concentration. It allows you to take on different roles. It enhances your dramatic acting ability. It's really really great as just to how far games have progressed to the point where you don't have to meet people to be friends with them.
Yeah.
Like it's I talk to yous lot like I've known yous for 10 years. I've known yous for 2 months.
I think
It,
that's what the internet does. The internet provides like anonymity, so you
Mhm.
don't tend to first see people when you meet them.
Exactly.
So therefore, you tend to open up more to people.
Yeah.
Uh, and then once you do actually meet them, it's like you're just meeting a mate who you've known for a long time. Like I've met like members of our community who I've played with for 5, 6 years,
Mhm.
and then you have that awkward moment of, oh, so that's what you end up looking like. Sure, hi, we're mates.
Yeah.
Let's
That's
go get a beer.
when I first met Recon, he was like, "Wow, didn't expect the beard." Like, oh man, yeah. The negative stigma surrounding any video game, it's definitely something that it comes from people that obviously aren't gamers in the same way that we are. You know, like these guys aren't the types of people that would look up videos on YouTube to find out how to do a certain thing, or they're obviously not the guys that are hardcore into a video game. Maybe they play it like these are the guys that are maybe casually maybe play FIFA or Madden with their friends or something like that. And they don't understand that their hobby is maybe going out on the town on a Saturday night or going out and playing football, rugby, or whatever
And
kids
now it's
play
just
these
to
days,
stay in
like
and play an
rounders or
MMO or
something.
a multiplayer
Yeah,
game.
and that's the same thing for us. Like that's our hobby at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
what's different? What the difference is between watching a film and playing a video game is the video game's interactive.
Exactly.
That is the only difference. Like
Unless if you're
literally,
playing Final Fantasy, where it's just a movie
that's
that
just
you
yeah,
watch and interact for about 10 minutes.
yeah. Screw the new Final Fantasies; they all suck. It's definitely something that we are working towards breaking, though.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at the previous wordplay, which you can find by clicking the link in the description below and the annotation above right now, to the last wordplay in which we talked about esports and how it's grown so fast. I think it links with this. It's in the sense that people are being more accepting of games and hardcore gamers and that kind of thing. So it really increases it decreases rather that stigma that people have about these games, which I think is great. We definitely need to move towards it becoming a lot more mainstream and becoming a lot more accepted.
I think that's a very good point there, Scotty.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Alright, so the last one, I wanted to keep this to last so we can end on 8. Well, I actually wanted to keep the other one to last, but Scotty screwed up that plan. Edit that.
Well, I'm trying to make things blend.
So one thing that we're leading into a bad way in MMOs is the pay to win. Um,
Oh
a
dear.
lot of big game companies are a bit 50-50 on this.
Yep.
Where they're trying to not do it but failing, and some are just trying to not do it and succeeding.
Yeah.
So basically, pay to win, for those of you who don't know, is pretty much where you have a free-to-play game or a pay-to-win game, and they have a marketplace where you can buy stuff for real-world money. A pay-to-win is where you have completely overpowered stuff. Like if it's a fantasy game, you've got weapons and armor and items that might give you an XP boost of 4 million XP per hour.
Yeah.
And these things are based off of money. They don't particularly cost a lot of money. In some cases, you may end up, like if you buy a starter kit, you may end up spending 30 to 60 bucks, basically the price of a normal game. But these people will have a significant advantage over Joe Blogs who just picks up the game for free and decides to play it because he wants to have fun. Where this really comes into effect is when games have PvP and you're going against someone who's got this overpowered gear.
Well, I don't necessarily think it's just PvP. If it's
No,
PvE,
it's not just PvP.
like you get really ahead of the curve if you've got this super overpowered item. Like
But
people race to like finish raids and stuff like that all the time. So if you paid a shit ton of money, you can just blitz the content.
But then they're doing themselves harm, really. Or then if you have a person who, for say, you get games where you can pay to get max level straight away.
Yeah.
You have a person who's played the game for 60 plus hours. He's gotten to level 60, say, where we've got the guy who's picked up the game, he's played it for about a few hours, and he's bought a level 60 character.
Mm-hmm.
That 60-hour guy is always going to be better than the $60 game guy.
Yeah.
But he may not have the best gear. This guy might still be overpowered. He might still be able to take him out. And then that's going to ruin the experience of the 60-hour guy because he's put all the time and effort into that.
Mm-hmm.
That can be negated for the fact that the $60 guy may not know how to actually play the game as well.
Yeah.
And that also leads into the fun of, is that the real experience of an MMO if this $60 guy is just bopping in at the end because he's got the money?
Exactly. I think everybody needs to take a leaf out of Grinding Gear Games book. Path of Exile has one of the best, if not the best, free-to-play models around. And if that was applied to MMOs, I think the world would be a much better place. I'm talking about cosmetic items and stash tabs, and then you look at Guild Wars, there's those novelty items where you get like a little mystery box that has a little fun surprise in that doesn't really affect the game whatsoever. You know, that kind of thing. Reskins, transmutation points, all of that sort of stuff. There is no need to even think about putting artificial progression into your store. Like, why would that even cross your mind? And why would you not kind of think that it's going to be pay to win? You know, sometimes it's a hard line. It's a blurred line. Like with Star Citizen. You know,
exactly. I wanted to talk about this actually, but you go ahead.
Yeah, sure, we can get onto that in a second. But I think that the cosmetics model, I think Riot does it kind of okay. Some of it's a little bit sketchy in League of Legends. But if you bring that sort of thing over into the MMO genre, the fun of the MMO is not necessarily the grind, but the journey to get to max level to get to the raiding content. And if you're skipping that, you're skipping half the content of the game.
Exactly.
You ruin it. You're not ruining it. You're marring the experience for yourself. I don't want to use the word ruin.
For yourself.
Exactly.
When it comes to PvE stuff, you're marring it for yourself in the beginning because you don't get to experience the storyline of a lot of these MMOs that really have good storylines.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do get to the end game content, maybe you've got the best stuff. If you've paid for it, you're marring the experience of the other guys who have a lot more experience, who have played the game for 60 hours, have got the raid equipment, so they've got like good enough equipment to actually do it, same as you. But why?
They had to work for that.
Exactly. but they might wipe on a raid because you've gone in there going, yeah, I've got the best kit, like, I know what I'm doing, blah, 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 when you have absolutely no idea because you've never experienced the game. You don't know how to use your character.
It's like when you buy Warlords of Draenor, I don't know if that promotion's still going, but you can get a boost to level 90.
Yep.
Funny characters, that's obviously for the hardcore guys, you know what I mean? That don't particularly want to level all the way through and get the new character all the way through. Yep. But if you're a new player and you think that you're going to boost to 90 and be good, like, you're about to hit a brick wall of pain and terror. Like, people are going to hate you for, like, doing a pug, like a pickup game for a raid or something like that, and you're just going to be the reason that they wipe because you've got no idea what you're doing.
Very much.
It's definitely something that we need to stray away from that. We need to realize that people need to be on a level playing field. I don't necessarily think that boosts are a terrible thing as long as the boosts are fair, because some people have less time than others, and they need to catch up.
Indeed.
People that are working
casual players, and casual players may still want to try do the raids.
A lot of people that are working a 9 to 5, that are working a 9 to 5 are going to find it difficult to grind up with all of their mates that are students that are in university 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
You've got to cater for different player bases, but you need to balance it in such a way that you're not going to ruin the experience for everybody else, including yourself.
Exactly, and that's
which leads us on to Star Citizen.
Which leads us on to Star Citizen,
right,
and the two different sides of the coin, because
we disagree.
Exactly. And we don't disagree on much, Scotty.
Yeah, but if we didn't disagree, if we agreed on everything, this podcast would be boring.
Exactly. So now this is why you're a fuckstain.
Really? We went that way with
it? No. In my opinion, Star Citizen is not pay to win. Because Star Citizen, in the end, will operate off of the fact that it's a skill-based game. It's just like Elite. So
it is.
Yeah, it's basically just like Elite. In Elite, at the moment, you can't buy extra ships. You can buy them in-game. In Star Citizen, you can buy them outside of game because they're trying to fund the game. Because they've got such ambitious plans to actually blow every space sim out of the water. And their high fidelity of everything, they need the extra money. So they've offered special ships. They are limiting the quantity of like the really special ships, like the Idris carrier. Well, it's not a carrier, it's a frigate. But I think they only offered, it was under 50 of those, and they were very, very expensive. Now your average like play to win guy is not going to be able to afford that. Like your average pay to win guy is looking at $60. That's almost the entry to the game. You've got different tiers of entry to the game, which is where I think a lot of the pay to win aspect is coming into it when you're looking at your smaller ships. Because people think, oh, I've only got an Aurora, I can't take on a 300i and win. Well, that's completely incorrect, because an Aurora, one of the Aurora versions, which isn't particularly that expensive, I think it costs just over...
The one that I'm getting is 35 quid.
Yeah.
So which is the cost of Elite Dangerous. So I'm pretty much getting Star Citizen for the same cost that Elite Dangerous was going to cost me, because all I want to do is... I like that progression from being the little guy and then building up on my own to be the big guy, so that's why I didn't want to dip in. Plus, I also think that the game's not going to be finished. But that's a different topic for another time.
It will, yeah. Okay, we won't lead into that. But, that being said, any ship can take out any other ship. It depends on the pilot's skill. If you're in a 300i, you can take out the bigger ships. You can take out a bigger ship as long as you maneuver yourself in the right positions, you use your actual player skill. You hit the right points. Like, a big ship is not always going to be able to take out a little ship just because it's smaller, which makes me think that it's not inherently a play to win. Hit us with yours, Scotty.
The reason that I think it's pay to win is because at different price points there are going to be different ships that do different things, correct? Am I right in saying that?
Correct, yes.
Right, so at every kind of price tier, there's going to be something that's like a fighter, a racer, a frigate, a carrier, that kind of thing, yeah?
Yes.
A bigger fighter is going to take out a little fighter.
Not always.
Well, most of the time.
If a bigger fighter's pilot is not as good as a little guy's pilot, then no, he's not always going to win.
Yeah, but if the guy that's got the bigger fucking thing, he's obviously going to be more interested in getting the game earlier and improving more.
Yeah, not necessarily. It's just that guy's got more money to spend.
Yeah, but if you've got more money to spend and you don't want to put that money to good use and you're going to use that investment to improve yourself, then what's the point? I think you've got good points, and they're absolutely fine, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There's no solid yes or no answer because number one, the game's not fucking out yet.
Exactly.
And number two, holy shit, who's fucking stupid enough to pay $5,000 for a bloody game? There's people out there. Don't get me wrong. 10,000, 15,000. Wow, holy shit, people are stupid.
Well, that's for people who want to back this game.
I cannot wait for this game to fail. Just so I can laugh in everybody's face.
So I commit suicide.
Right, the Aurora is going to cost $35 US, which is, as of right now, the current exchange rate, according to Google, which I don't really trust, is £22.50. £22.50 is how much it's going to cost me to play this game.
Yes.
To be a low-level trader and to build up on my own. To get to the bigger fellas, and that's what I want to do. I want to just get up there in-game with in-game currency, right? Which is an absolutely fine way of doing it. Like we said before, these players can skip that progression up to the bigger ships. In the same way that you can skip the progression through another MMO to get to endgame. And does that necessarily mean that you're going to mar that experience at the end again?
Is that necessarily going to mar that experience? Because they're getting the bigger ship, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a completely different style of play compared to what you're going to be doing.
Yes, I agree.
So you have to, you look at it as they're going to be a different class.
Yeah.
They're going to be going to completely different worlds. They're going to be doing completely different things. Those sort of ships, it's not economical for them to operate as traders a lot of the time.
But if I was to come across one of them, it would absolutely destroy me.
If they chose to attack you, yes.
Because why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? The human aspect of it. If that
why wouldn't you attack a trader? Why wouldn't you attack a trader that's hauling shitloads of cargo? And because you know that you'd win because you spent $2,000 on a fucking ship.
Yes.
How long is it going to take me to get that ship in game? Like if there was a ship, right? There's a $325 US Constellation Aquila digital, right?
Yes. We don't know the in-game prices. That's the problem.
How fucking long? If that, I swear to God, if that takes like 20 minutes to get, I'm going to piss myself.
It doesn't.
It won't. But if it did, I'm under exaggerating, right? I'm toning it down a bit. But it's because we don't know how long. Like, I'm all for trusting developers, right?
Yes.
But RSI could turn around and just shaft everybody who's put shit tons of money into this game.
They could.
And you could get these. Like I've got so many like controversial opinions on shit like this. Like I don't like Steam, but again, that's another topic for whatever. It's a case of the companies can manipulate you, but even if they don't, like the amount of power you've got by having this huge ship straight off the bat, it's
worrying. It can be worrying. I'll give you that.
A little bit sketchy. What I do like is the fact that you can buy packages of ships. So you can have different ships for different things. There's an Aurora MR in here. There's all those little ships, and there's also an Origin 300i. So if you want to do different roles at different times, you can just switch your ship out, right?
Indeed. Which
is really cool. That's awesome. That's really awesome. But I think that again that Aurora is actually pretty cool for a little starship. It says personal
really
transport.
Nice looking ship.
Oh, there's an Aurora CL. That's one that I'd probably see if I can grab an Aurora
I believe
CL.
there is a hauler there as well. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, the Aurora CL says that it's a carrying ship, not a. There it is, $60. That's fine. I'd totally get that. What's that going to be?
Yep.
$60. Right. So this is what the game's going to cost me, and I'll happily pay for this. Right, £38.57 to get the ship that's going to start me off trading. Absolutely fine. Somebody could pay for the Mustang Gamma at $70, or the Mustang Delta at $80, and they could fucking destroy me.
Yes, but someone could also pay for the same Aurora and come and destroy it as well.
No, because I'm an incredible pilot. It's
But what if you didn't?
But
that's irrelevant. What if they bought that one little extra one with an extra missile rack?
Look, right? I am. What's that guy from Star Trek?
I don't know. Star
Wars. Sorry, the dude that does the thing with the furry bloke. That's him.
Han Solo.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to piss you off because I do know Star Wars. Right, so I'm like Han Solo. Right?
Sure.
Exactly.
You're Han Solo.
Right? Did you see that friggin' Star Wars advert, right, for the next Star Wars film? That was me. right?
That was you
That
flying.
wasn't CGI. That was me. Okay, that was a tricked out F-15 with a different skin on it. Okay, that's what that was, and I was flying that. Anyway, that's what I think. I think that it's definitely in the same vein that you can just blitz that content. I think you do have incredibly good points, and we don't know who's right or wrong because the game's not out.
We'll find out when the game actually comes out.
And I'm so glad that we actually disagree on this. Yeah. Like, so happy, because this would be such a boring discussion. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the whole matter.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Wordplay Episode 2. My name's Dirt.
And I'm Scott.
And we have played some games.